Originally, Morty was a sensitive, innocent teenager, but throughout the many crazy situations he got involved in, he ended up going through some changes in his personality. Because of that, in some episodes, he was already capable of doing terrible things. Got curious? Then watch the video until the end because I'm going to show you some of the worst things Morty has ever done. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Destroying Rick's lab. After Morty secretly takes Rick's portal gun, he goes on a trip through several dimensions. He notices there's a portal fluid level indicator, and afraid Rick might get mad, Morty decides to top it off with soda, but he ends up spilling some of the mixture on his hand, creating a small portal there. He manages to talk to a guy named Nick, who says he also spilled some of the fluid on his thigh. Sometime later, Rick finds out Morty took his portal gun without permission, so he fires him from the role of assistant and replaces him with two crows. Outraged, Morty decides to seek out his new friend and finds him locked up in a psychiatric hospital. Morty then decides to help him escape. After that, the two start going on adventures together. They break into Rick's lab and steal some equipment, then take the opportunity to get revenge by destroying the entire lab and all the gear Rick had built. They set off on more adventures, but when Nick tries to kill several aliens, Morty realizes he's a psychopath and tries to escape. However, since they're connected, they end up finding each other and fighting. Morty manages to defeat Nick by ripping off his hand and throwing it into his own portal. Sending an alien to hell. During an adventure, an alien lord approaches Rick and asks to be killed by him. According to the religion of his species, they would achieve a life of eternal orgasms after death, as long as they were killed by a great warrior. Rick feels flattered to have been chosen for that, but asks to eat something before killing the alien. After eating a lot, Rick goes to the bathroom, and Morty starts talking to the alien. He says he's jealous that their species has concrete proof of life after death, because on Earth, nobody really knows what happens after we die. After hearing that, the alien realizes his species has no real proof of what happens after death, and starts to doubt his religion. He decides to follow Morty's advice and runs away from Rick to avoid being killed. However, while running through the streets yelling that he wants to live, the alien ends up being hit by a car and dies. His soul leaves his body, but since he didn't die a proper death, some demonic beings appear and start dragging his soul to hell, while he screams in regret that he shouldn't have doubted his religion, leaving Morty shocked.
It's all real. Oh, it hurts. Oh, I shouldn't have doubted it. I shouldn't have let you make me doubt it.
Death Crystal. After Rick and Morty travel to a planet to collect crystals that allow them to see their possible deaths, Morty ends up secretly taking one of the crystals and sees a reality where he dies with Jessica by his side, telling him she loves him. Guided by the crystal, Morty decides to make that future, where he dies next to Jessica, a reality. However, because of that, he ends up causing a terrible accident where Rick gets impaled by a rock. Instead of saving his grandfather, Morty decides to keep following the path shown by the crystal. Because of that, he begins doing many crazy and bizarre things to ensure he dies with Jessica by his side. But in the process, he accidentally angers the school bully. To defend himself, he grabs several weapons from Rick and easily takes down the other boys. After that, he gets involved in a bloody fight with police officers and the army, killing many people in the process. But thanks to the crystal, he manages to get away with all of it. Then, Morty goes into the desert and uses one of Rick's devices to transform into a kind of monster, all in an effort to guarantee that he would die beside Jessica. However, when Rick comes back to life, he manages to rescue the boy and brings him back to normal. Sometime later, Morty hears Jessica saying that she wants to work in a nursing home, comforting elderly people who die alone and without family. That revelation leaves Morty devastated, because the future he had been so desperate to reach was nothing like what he imagined.
I'm gonna look at their name tags and I'm gonna say, I love you, over and over.
What the
Hypocrisy. After Morty manages to go on a date with a superheroine named Platina, he becomes completely infatuated with her. To impress her, he decides to help put out a forest fire. Surprisingly, the crazy plan works, and Platina falls for him too. The two start a relationship. However, Platina isn't human. She's a being summoned through 4 elemental rings, and the people who summon her are extremely controlling, wanting to use her powers to make as much money as possible. Because of that, they forbid the relationship. Morty is taken to a room where he's threatened threatened by the bearer of the fire ring, but before being burned alive, he escapes. He then bites the man to steal his ring, and uses its power to burn everyone who was threatening him. Next, Morty disguises himself as a pizza delivery guy and sneaks into a meeting of the ring bearers. There, he uses the fire powers to get the other elemental rings and brutally kills everyone at the scene. With that, he manages to free Plaintina, but little by little, she starts taking more drastic measures to save the planet, which deeply scares Morty. And after Plaintina kills some people, Morty decides to break up with her, even though he himself had killed several people, including the ring bearers, whom Plaintina considered to be like her children.
Ears! Through fire!
He lost control. When Rick and Morty landed on a planet, they discovered that the peaceful lifestyle of the locals was maintained through a very dark tradition. Once a year, all forms of violence were allowed. People could kill without facing any punishment. The festival, coincidentally, it was happening on the same night Rick and Morty arrived on the planet. After learning about it, Rick decided to stay and observe the macabre custom. Later that night, Morty saw a girl in danger and forced Rick to help her. But they ended up being betrayed. The girl shot Rick and then stole his ship, leaving both of them unprotected in the middle of the chaos. To avoid being killed, Rick and Morty put on robotic armor, and Rick quickly started taking down the mob that was chasing them. At first, Morty hesitated to hurt others, but he was soon overcome with rage and started killing everyone who came after him. However, Morty began to lose control and started killing everyone around him, even those who posed no threat at all. And even after everyone was already dead, Morty kept shooting their corpses, only stopping when Rick showed up. That was the video. If you made it this far, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below if you remember any other moment where Morty totally lost it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.